The following is a production of Salt and Light Radio in Boise, Idaho. Kick off your work boots and pull up a boulder. It's time for Man Cave, discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. Grab your favorite beverage, pick out a comfy spot around the campfire, and enjoy today's conversation with our two favorite cavemen, Pat King and Brian Howell.
Welcome to the show. I'm Pat King.
And I'm Brian Howell. Welcome to this week's Man Cave. And today we're going to be talking about patriotism because July 4th is right around the corner. And we just want to remind you, Catholic men out there, that we serve a king and not a president.
That is right. What does that mean?
King of the universe. We serve Jesus.
I thought you were talking about old English times when we were still serving a king. Yes. Well, actually, we didn't serve him. He just made us do stuff.
He made us do stuff. Yeah, we didn't like that.
That was King George. We didn't like that.
Yeah, crazy King George.
And we don't like a president that wants to treat us like a subject.
Right.
And neither does Christ. He never treats us like a subject, does he?
No. And that's the thing we wanted to kind of point out today, that it doesn't matter who's living in the White House, that really...
Who is? I don't know.
Without trying to get too political here today.
Okay, got to watch my tongue.
But just talking about, that the fact that we need to keep our focus on Jesus. And it doesn't matter, not only politics, in Washington, D.C., but sometimes this creeps into our own parishes where we might not see eye to eye with a particular priest. And so, God forbid we leave the church because of that, but some people do.
Happens all the time. Well,
or parish shopping.
That's how I left.
Yeah.
It was because a priest was, I don't know, would I call him a heretic? Is that too strong? To me, it wasn't the way I was raised. And when I was trying to get my wife to look into the Catholic Church as joining me in the faith,
right,
we sit down with this one priest in Southern California, and by the time after 2.5 hours of talking with him, I did not know what church I was in.
Mm-hmm. So instead of bringing her into the church, you actually left. He pushed you both out.
He pushed us both, and I have to say, he really did push us out, because what I grew up understanding, and I was an altar boy, and I taught CCD, and I went to all 12 years. My mom made me go to all 12 years of CCD. That's Catholic Catechism Doctrine, for you people that don't know. Baltimore Catechism. It was very good. It was very instructional. And so I'm going down living on my own in Southern California, and this priest is talking about stuff that didn't sit well.
Wasn't
with me.
The church that you'd been.
Yeah, and this
is
Vatican II came into fruition in the 70s.
Yeah, it was mid 60s, late 60s.
Late 60s. Well, I mean, the document was actually presented as the bishops and cardinals have all decided this is what we're going to produce. Mm-hmm. But it was very well misinterpreted, like the Bible is sometimes. Imagine that. So I'm in Southern California. This is the 84, 85. And I'm wanting to set the world on fire as a Catholic. Pope John Paul II is now leading the world with his youth days. And this priest was everything but what I grew up. And I left the church.
Yeah.
I thought the church was changing. You know the old saying, as California goes, so goes the rest of the world. So goes the rest of the state.
Never heard that.
You've never heard that? Never heard that. You are a young man. I must be an old fart. No, I was told that California was like on the precipice of all changes in the United States. And so I'm down there and I'm thinking, okay, this is the way the church is going. I don't really... Then I can go to any Christian church and call myself a Christian, mm-hmm. a believer. And it was devastating. And for 25 years, I thought the church had truly changed to just one of 50,000 other Christian denominations.
Yeah. But going back to, we don't leave Jesus because of Judas. We hear that a lot.
Oh, when I heard that, I'm going, my middle name's Jay. Could be Judas.
Could be Judas.
Instead of Joseph.
But again, that we're not there to worship the pastor of our parish. We're there to worship God, and so I know I hear this a lot, especially this time of year. Our diocese is shuffling our priests around. Last year there was over 24. I don't think it's as many this year, but every June, July, these priests are sent to different parts of our diocese. For
various reasons. Right. Sometimes, like Father Flores was, when he left Our Lady of the Valley, he was a fixer, business fixer. He was very good. He was a clerk in the Army, and he was very good at numbers and stuff like that. So when he came to Our Lady of the Valley, it was just been built. It had a big, huge mortgage, and the diocese, most dioceses don't want a church to be in debt. Like your own personal debt is hard enough. It's hard to get out from underneath it. You end up doing things you wouldn't ordinarily do if you weren't so in debt. And the church was in debt, and Father Flores really summoned the troops and brought everybody together, and they paid off that mortgage, I think, 12 years earlier than the mortgage note was supposed to be. And, well, I tell you what, does that lift a burden off of the church? But Father Flores was a fixer, and so when churches find themselves in financial situations, Father Flores tends to go there and kind
fix
of
the problem
out. Yeah, and that's a good thing.
It is.
So every priest has a different talent outside of just being a priest. They do great works that we don't know about.
The other thing about our Another thing about our particular diocese is it's sort of become this melting pot where we have priests from Africa, from Central America, South America, and because of
Poland.
Right.
We got 4 priests from Poland.
With
Poland one
now.
More common, actually.
So it's like now all these different languages, different dialects, different accents are being shared with us. That's some of the rumblings that we hear as well. It's like, well, I can't understand the priest, so I'm not going to go to Mass.
Well, Father Pavel is a Polish priest, the youngest priest in America. Has been at Our Lady of the Valley. He's got a deep voice, and he talks like this, and it's like, he's such a skinny guy. Where does he get that deep voice from? And some people who, as you get older, your tones, you either hear higher or lower, you don't hear those. And our sound system, it can be improved. So there's that. But he talks very low. Some people can't hear him. Okay, but Father Mike has more of those mid-range tones, and he's very articulate and speaks very clearly, and he does talk a little louder, but those face mics really work well. So he's heard better. And so I hear this all the time. I wish he would speak more clearly. I wish he'd speak up, But that's going to happen. You can be that way in the room with several people you've known for a long time. You don't speak loud enough, or you speak too loud. I get told that all the time. But we can't look at their personalities or the things they do outside of their priesthood. Their priesthood is what we're here for.
Right.
And that priesthood is a representation of Jesus in persona Christi. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're there for, is to be part of a community in reverence to God.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So getting back to patriotism, I love my country.
Oh, me too.
I fear my government. So, and fear is kind of a strong word.
Well,
but so is hate, which was the word that I was originally going to reach for. But it's just the concept of America and how America came to be, and now what it has become. It's frightening. And so you kind of have to lean on the king in order to have that faith and courage to be able to stand up to the president.
I think to the rest of the world, our form of government is like a roller coaster. Because you can have a president that's one way. This is their personalities. You can have, and he's elected, so he has to kind of live up to what he says he's going to do. We try to hold his feet to the fire that way, but so you get one president that's over here and he's really this way, and then another president comes in and he's more this way and not that way. And the rest of the world looks at us, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Why can't we have something that we can rely on every time? Just like our taxes. If things seem to be going well, and all of a sudden they change the tax rules, and then we got to fight it. So this is the nuances of our government, but yet when you think about it, it doesn't. In some ways it affects your life, but it shouldn't affect your life. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Your life is not of this world, so you have to work with what they give you, work around it, but really your focus should always be on Jesus Christ and the world that he has come for us to live in during outside of our short little years on earth.
Right. So my daughter recently turned 19, and she...
Wow, you're old.
And she got to vote in the recent primary election. So it was her first time voting. And we are trying to kind of teach her about the process and say, we need you to do some homework. You know, what are your personal beliefs? And you put those down on paper, and then you try to find that political affiliation that best matches what.
So you're not going to make her vote the way you vote.
I'm not. I'm going to, say this is why I vote the way I do. Being a Catholic man who is in his mid-50s, who has a family, and yada yada. These are the things that I believe in, and because of this, I affiliate as such, and that's what I want her to do as well.
Are your positions focused first on the moral aspects?
Yes. Okay. So my number one has always been pro-life.
Pro-life.
Who is pro-life?
Yes.
And then also, pro-gun. And also...
Because if you don't have the Second Amendment, you don't have the First.
And if you don't have the right to life, then all the other rights don't matter anyway. So
yeah,
if you're not alive, it doesn't matter.
Mother Teresa, and I'm not quoting her per se, but she got up on, I think it was to Congress, but she says, you're going to have unending wars because we don't have respect for the very basic innocence of life. So why not just kill each other? I mean, again, this is her message. We're having all these wars because we don't first protect the very innocence of life from the very beginning.
Right.
When it matters the most. Because we can just kill our offspring without even, now anymore, you just take a pill and it's done.
Yeah.
And there's no consequences anymore to behavior. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. It shouldn't be just walk away like you didn't do anything.
And going back to what you were saying about a roller coaster, I was a Ronald Reagan Republican, so when I was able to first vote, that's who I cast my vote for. And so when you think about what Ronald Reagan stood for, whether it was when he was governor of California or president of the United States for 2 terms, those views, I think now he would have been more of a libertarian or a constitutionalist. Because I go back to Kennedy in the 60s, it's like,
he was
JFK might be a Republican these days.
No, he would be. My grandfather, not because JFK was a Catholic. That was like a big deal,
right?
Because if you look back at our history of the United States, Catholics were actually not allowed to hold office, to be anything of any importance. They weren't told to have any role in government, and they were ostracized as if we were taboo. And so Catholics, that's why the Catholic Church in America really hasn't got a really good, strong foothold as the preeminent religion in the United States, because we were kept back from holding in the 13 colonies originally. I think they even had laws against Catholics being in House, Representative, Congress, whatever. So you look it up, the individual states were like that, and those states did establish religions. Some states were religious oriented first, and that's why the state should make no form of religion the head of they shouldn't be in, like St. George, like King George. They did the Anglican or the
the Church of England.
Yeah, so he took over the Catholic Church, and changed it. They didn't want that in our Constitution, so that is why. But Catholics haven't had a strong foothold. But to be Catholic in America was. It was like a plague. You just didn't say you were. It was bad, like what happened in Mexico and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
And I'd actually even heard a story, and I don't know if this is true. I probably shouldn't even be sharing it, but that Maryland, that's like where all the Catholics were rounded up and put in Maryland.
Yeah, well,
I'd heard that. I don't know if it's true or not.
That's where the first Catholic universities started. So, we'll
give you a state.
Yeah.
We'll give you one of the 13.
Even with all these trials and 2,000 years of history now, the Catholic Church is still pushing forward to make headroads into areas. But the Catholic Church and religion, I think for the most part, my grandfather was very patriotic. Mm-hmm. Now, he was too young for World War I. He was in that era. He was too young for World War I and too old for World War II. But he did his part. He would go out and, you know what smudge pots are? For heating up, smudge pots, they fill them full of oil to keep the frost off of your orchards and crops.
Oh, okay.
They would put these little pots throughout the field and they'd light them, right? Well, during World War II, they had, they weren't allowed to have lights, street lights on, so that we couldn't be attacked. The fear was Japan was going to attack the United States on the West Coast. So they would, to see roads at night, they would put these smudge pots, these lanterns on the corners of street corners. And my grandfather had this, I still have the oil can. He'd go around with this oil can and pump these smudge pots up and then light them at night so that people could drive at night without their headlights.
Wow.
They drove around. Now, this is what I was told, so I didn't live that era, so I don't know. But they would drive with very minimal lighting so that we could not be attacked.
Wow.
So, and that's just the way it was in that time frame.
So my grandfather was a World War II veteran, and my father-in-law fought in Korea, and I have had many of my relatives that have been in the service, whether it's Air Force. One of my best friends was in the Air Force and was stationed many different places around the world. And so, being patriotic has always meant a lot to us. And it was really ingrained in us in school, where our junior high and our high school principals, when we had pep rallies or we went to athletic events, they were there to tell you how you were supposed to act during the national anthem, because that meant something. And you go to events now or you watch events on TV and
they stand around with their hand in their pocket or folded or talking. They wear their hats. Yeah. They don't show any respect, and it's really sad because yes, you're right. I remember the first time that I was wearing I played Little League baseball, and they always did the national anthem before the start of the day's games, not before every game, but before the start of the day's game. So if you were one of the first games of the day, because they'd be 2-3 dozen games throughout the day, this park that had 5 or 6 baseball fields, and they would just have Little League games all day long. But if you were there at the beginning, you all stood for the national anthem. They played it over the loudspeaker, and the flag was raised, right? So the first time, I think my dad's standing next to me, and I've got my ball cap hat and on. Got my hand over my heart, but I still wearing my hat. My dad just looked at me and he knocked my hat off. So it would fall underneath the bleachers, and I'd have to go chase it down. And I look at him, he goes, "You don't wear a hat when the flag's being raised." It's like, okay, so now it's like, take my hat off. Ronald Reagan, like you mentioned, I was also, my first vote for president was the first time Ronald Reagan ran. And the reason why, and I grew up with Jimmy Carter as president, and I had those high gas prices, and I thought he was going to boost our economy by raising our minimum wage, and I learned a great lesson for that. Maybe that's for another time. But minimum wage went up, and things did not get any better. In fact, they got a little worse. But Jimmy Carter is one of those guys that made me feel worse about my country by the things he said as president. Here, you're supposed to respect your president, but he always made me feel like I was inadequate, that I wasn't a good person because I didn't do these things, the things he recommended. Ronald Reagan came in, and even though I wasn't into politics, he made me feel proud to be an American. Mm-hmm. He made me feel that America was that big shiny city on the hill. I don't know if that was George Bush or Ronald Reagan, but he made me feel proud to be an American, and not proud in a way that's boastful or bad or hold it over someone else, but proud that we have something that was given to us by God. By God. And he talked about that all the time. God was very important to President Reagan. And that made me feel like I can be a godly man and a country American, proud American man. And so there was that difference in attitude because God was at the forefront of his speeches, of his talks. And when he would end, it was, may God bless America. Man, I think about it right now. Mm-hmm. I'm tingling. Yeah. It makes me feel chills like, why is America great? America's great because we do so much for the rest of the world. Why is the Catholic Church so great? Because we do so much for the rest of the world. People don't realize that most orphanages around the world, most hospitals, most schools around the world, not in America, but around the world, are funded and supported by the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. And the Knights of Columbus donate 163 million man hours every year, volunteer man hours, to causes. I mean, and when you learn those numbers, and again, I don't have the numbers exactly, but these are things I've read or I thought I've read, but I know it's a lot. And plus, that's just man hours of volunteer. That's not the money donated. We donate, I think, to date, there's over 15,000 ultrasound machines that were bought and given to women's clinics for ultrasounds for their clinics. They're $10,000 a piece. So the Knights of Columbus in America have done that. Yeah. And I'm a proud Knights of Columbus because we do things. We don't just say things. We don't say, I'm pro-life. No, we're actually proactive and pro-life. We lead the marches for pro-life, for March for Life in January. Cold Januaries, we're out there in the forefront leading the pack.
Yeah. So in 40 years, what has happened to our country? I don't know where, and maybe it was even before that, but like you're saying about that pride of being an American in the 80s, and now where we're at today, where the country is broken, the government doesn't work, we've got homeless people, we've got so many problems here in this country, and I can't help but feel the rest of the world is laughing at us right now. But to try to refocus on...
We have to put God and the Bible back in the school.
Yeah.
There's no way... Over the last 50 years, when they removed God, it was a slow trickle, the slippery slope. Yep. It actually does work. When you remove God and the Bible, you still have people that will pray and say the Pledge of Allegiance and say that. But after generation of generation of that being gone, has it gotten any better? School districts and governments insist on Bibles and religious leaders to go to the prisons to help minister to those that are in prison. But they won't do that same thing for schools to prevent them from getting into prison.
Yeah.
And there's that dichotomy of problems there that we want to fix the problem, but we don't want to prevent the problem.
Yeah. So I would suggest two things as Independence Day approaches. One is to get yourself a copy of the U.S. Constitution and read it.
Bill of Rights, too.
And learn about the amendments, because some of them a little sketchy. Another thing to do is there's a book by Trent Horn called Can a Catholic Be a Socialist? And no is the answer, by the way. Yeah. Spoiler alert. But to read through that.
One page just says...
The Constitution?
No.
Oh, the book.
Trent Horn's book is Can a Catholic Be a Socialist? It just says no. You open the book,
and that just says no in big capital letters.
There's more on the forward and the ending than just the no.
But he does go into a lot of reasons why. In Venezuela is a current topic that you've got 4 million people leaving Venezuela every year.
Yeah.
Obviously socialism's not working. And so you've got people that risk their life swimming from Cuba to America, so communism must not be the answer. Mm-hmm. I don't hear of too many people losing their life or risking their life swimming from Miami back to Cuba.
Unless it's a Red Bull challenge.
Maybe.
Can you swim the English Channel? Can you swim to Cuba? No, why would I?
Yeah,
There's nothing on the other side.
Yeah.
They don't even let me bring home the cigars,
Yeah.
So there's a book out when I was younger that it was called I Am Third, the Gale Sayers story. You ever heard of that? Okay. So his whole mantra was I am third. He says, my God is first. My family, my country are second, and I am third. He put himself in relative position of what he's supposed to serve. He serves his God first. He serves his country and his family second. And him, it didn't matter. He was there to serve. And when you serve those two things, you're taken care of.
Yeah. And we're big fans of Father Larry Richards, and Father Larry uses the word...
Oh, shut up and be a man.
He uses the word joy, and J is Jesus, O is others, and Y is yourself. So similar. I mean, it's the right pecking order, and if you order your life that way, you're right. Things are going to work out a lot better.
Well, and it's actually easy to be a Catholic and be a patriot. It's nothing... People can tend to take it in different meanings, like patriot is a zealot. They're just country first, and by golly, it's going to be this or the highway. No, that's where your Catholic faith comes in and modifies that subtleness of your patriotism, because it's okay to serve a just cause. Like if we're being attacked, the Catholic Church is very clear on if it's a just war, just cause, and you have to protect your land, your freedom, your family from an enemy that's attacking you, you have the right to defend yourself. It's just like as if someone breaks into your home and they want to cause harm to you. Now, if they break into your home and no one's home, they just steal stuff. Mm-hmm. But if they come into your home and now they're threatened by your presence, they could do things that calling a police officer won't solve.
Right.
Because they're 10, 15 minutes away from answering the call. So that's why the Second Amendment was so important. And the Second Amendment is to keep those who would take things away from you, like the government, from taking those things away from you. The reason why we aren't in Peasantville now is because we have more guns than they do.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, come on. I've got 5 or 6, and I've got friends that have more than that. But the thing is, we all live near each other, and no one shot each other. We haven't taken anger rage out. In fact, I got to dust off my gun. It's been a while. When you're one-eyed, it's not as fun shooting anymore just for fun. And the cost of ammunition, it's not so fun to shoot anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
When you can't even find bullets to replace them with.
Yeah. So as we approach 4th of July, again, Pat and I have given you some food for thought, some things to maybe read, pick up, and just be safe with the fireworks and enjoy a barbecue.
Fireworks, what do the fireworks show? What is the purpose of the fireworks?
Well, I think one is it's for the celebration, obviously, but it represents the battles. You know, you hear that line in the national anthem.
Yes, there.
And so
you're
recreating those events.
And that's what the Mass does.
Wow, nice segue.
Yeah.
Way to pull it together, buddy.
So, thank you. So that the Jewish tradition, the Jewish families have the tradition. If you read the Old Testament, God commanded them to celebrate these times of periods. Why? So they never forget where they came from. So that they live in those moments, that they take time out to, one, honor and respect God, but honor and respect the journeys that they've traveled. Our 4th of July fireworks is not just to go out and get drunk or go do this. It is to remember the cause of our purpose as a free country. We are the freest country in the world, even still today. You know, we're so
in spite of ourselves.
In spite of ourselves, well, yeah, great. As Paul Harvey used to say, great self-government takes great discipline, self-discipline, and we're getting to the point where I heard someone the other day said, "Well, the government needs to be there." The Uvalde case, okay, we'll bring that up. Someone said in testimony that they weren't protecting us, and no, they're not supposed to protect you. The cops come in after something happens. They usually can't prevent something from happening because we have free will, like God gave every citizen free will. Our country has free will. And evil people are going to do evil things. You can't stop them from doing it if they just think it. Okay? But I wish we could, but then that wouldn't be a God I wanted to serve if he just stopped everything from happening, because then he's taking away free will.
then he becomes a dictator.
And we do not serve that kind of a king. We serve a king that's loving and kind and lets us be who we are. And then when we screw up and we come to him and say, I screwed up, he forgives us.
Yeah.
And that's the king we serve. So this is why we don't serve a president, we serve a king. Mm-hmm. And that's why this country, I believe, is the greatest country on the planet.
Amen, brother. So in the immortal words of George Washington, suck it, England.
Boy, are you there when he said that?
I don't remember which history book I read that in. So happy Treason Day to you, ungrateful colonists, and hope that you celebrate well and have a great time doing that. But so God bless all of us. God bless America.
I'm going to have fireworks, barbecue. Now, I don't smoke cigars. Yeah, I know you do, but I'm going to have some whiskey, and I'm going to thank God that our country's still here today.
Absolutely. Sounds
Happy
like fun.
4th of July.
Happy 4th of July. So as we wrap up this episode with our prayer to St. Michael, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, check back here next week. Have a safe and sane 4th of July. Celebrate this great country of ours.
Let us know if you have any subject matters that you want us to talk about.
Comments below.
We just make this up as we know. we want to be more free to discuss things that are on men's hearts, men's minds. You know, whether you're having a personal crisis, a spiritual crisis, send us a topic. Between Brian and we've probably faced most, if not all. He's a convert. I'm a revert. I've gone down that challenge. I married a Southern Baptist woman. I've lost a child. I've been divorced. I screwed up a lot.
Chances are.
We've
lived through the same thing.
We can talk it out,
So, iron sharpens iron, guys.
Amen.
So, if you've got something you want to share with us, leave it in the comments below. Hit subscribe so you can join us.
Like us, please.
Pat's insecure.
I'm insecure.
All right. We'll talk to you next week. God bless.
Bye now.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Man Cave, a weekly podcast discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. A production of Salt and Light Radio in Boise, Idaho. To learn more about our ministry, please visit our website, saltandlightradio.com.